time, that was the most amazing car.
The meticulous effort that went into bonding everything together and getting it so finite.
Nigel was a serious top-level driver.
I had that understanding with the car that if it wasn't just perfect, I could drive around the problem. It was an animal.
The FW14B is an evolution of the 1991 car, the FW14, and the main feature that signifies the B specification is the upgrade to the active ride suspension system for the 1992 season.
Well, the car was good aerodynamically, which was mainly down to Adrian Newey, but it had lots of Williams qualities in it.
I believe the active program had started to come on stream. Obviously it raced in '87, but you'd started the program before.
I always wanted to do an active suspension. You know, we didn't have the money and the resource, but then some guy showed up who'd worked for an automotive product, and he got this hydraulic self-leveling suspension system that he'd originally designed when he was working at Lucas for ambulances. We kicked off an active suspension system, and the control system was entirely mechanical on this thing. And we tried to emulate that, but we didn't have any success with that, so we changed it to electronic. It was a three-legged stool system, so whatever you do with the car, you never have corner weights going all over the place. The car could sit on the ground like that, and the corner weight would still be perfect.
It was an R&D project that had got ahead of itself, and that they decided to take to a race. The car was raced at Monza and it had won the race, and I think at that point Frank Dernie that is, thought, you know, hang on, we ought to have some people to manage this thing.
So I started looking for people who would so we'd actually make our own hardware box. I wanted our own controller, and I wanted someone to write the software.
Especially after he'd interviewed me, he also interviewed Steve Wise. Frank realised he needed engineers.
So I advertised, and those were the two guys that I hired. Paddy's probably the cleverest guy I've ever hired. And Steve was just fantastic on the hardware. And we ended up with a controller which was just fantastic.
And within that context, we applied the active suspension and then a number of other systems like the automatic gearbox, then the traction control. And that all really came together in '92 when we had that sort of perfect assembly of these new weapons.
It was brilliant because there was just lots and lots of toys to play with. Yeah. The car could do anything. It was really a platform control, but the ride was controlled to within ridiculous tolerances. And when you look at photographs of the car going around, it looks like the suspension's collapsed. There's no clearance.
The biggest problem with the active is when it went wrong, it failed, it could kill you.
I drove the car the first time in Estoril, I think in a winter test. And the grip immediately, I could feel it was more than the passive car. This is because the car was producing more downforce, because of the fact that it was always very level, and it was like to be always in a wind tunnel.
And it wasn't until we had a fail-safe system where when it failed, it failed everything together. So then it went rock hard, but then you didn't have wheels jumping all over the place. So it felt like you went straight onto concrete. It failed, obviously you couldn't continue, but it didn't then kill you.
We invented traction control in late '91, and it literally was one line of software. It was a very, very simple system to implement once we had the right things in place. We introduced it with very little in the form of trials, but we just ran it, and it cut cylinders to reduce the torque. And we ran it for quite a few of the winter tests. But by the time we got to Kyalami for the first race, I think Renault only then were waking up to the point that there would be some reliability risk with this. So during the race, they were saying, you know, you mustn't use it.
And Nigel, what was he like? Because obviously he dominated the season, winning.
Nigel had total faith in the car. So when this car came in, he knew what to expect. The beginning part of the year when the car was testing before the first race, it was like, what's going to happen?
We actually were testing in Riccardo fairly late on, and we'd actually already made the decision to race the active system. We noticed on the main straight there that the passive car was actually quicker on end of straight speed by 2 or 3 kilometers an hour. And this was something we hadn't spotted before, even though the lap time was stronger on the active car. And we realized that the passive car was actually stalling itself. The floor was stalling at the end of the straight as it reached a much lower ride height. And because the active car didn't go down to that ride height because it maintained attitude, it wasn't stalling, and the stall was allowing a reduction in the induced drag. So this is where we invented the button, which in a way was the first DRS.
To you, was it the perfect car?
Renault did an absolutely superb job with the engine. The gearbox and the reliability of the gearbox, the mechanics, the engineering, the makers of the front wings, the rear wings, it's just phenomenal.
You cannot stop the progress of great engineering, and Formula One is really a crucible of great engineering, and so it's proved to be. We've developed from then on, but I see the 14B as really, you know, a turning point, the first introduction of that new era of complex Formula One cars.